All right, hey guys. Hold on. Unmuted. Sorry about that. Hi everybody. So we're talking about the new moon in Leo that's available. If you have any questions, just use the chat. Everything is there and available. It's an interesting time that we're in now. Hi, nice to see you guys all here. um, New moons are, we get them every month, and they're not always as popular as the full moons, because you don't really see it in the sky, but it's something that it's showing us a good time to begin something new, to keep the with the rhythm of changing and with life and all these things. And the new moon is something that's been observed for, like, let's just say, as long as we can remember, but in a structured way. It was the first precept that was given to Moshe when he left Egypt and he was leading the Israelites out. God said to him that you need to recognize these lunar cycles. And of course, this was based on the wisdom that was channeled by Abraham. And Abraham, we know, was the first astrologer that was overcoming the stars and channeled a lot of really powerful information that's been used throughout all the three different monotheistic religions. And so it's really amazing to think about, how is this useful for us today? How can we use this today? What does this mean for us today? I mean, this was stuff that was really essentially happening 3,300 years ago. So what does it mean now? Well, it means pretty much, hi everybody, it pretty much means the same things now that it did then, but of course it's expressed in a different way. And I've used the new moon personally in my life for so many things, because when you're beginning something new, you're starting a new journey, or whether it's a new business, or even if you just need to give new energy, give new wind, uh, maybe getting like remotivated and understanding what it is that's available there for you, it's a really good time to kind of align things with the cosmic weather, in the same way that we do this with the actual weather in the world. We're not going to go out in our bathing suits in a snowstorm, and we're also not going to go out in the heat with all of our, like, New York or Russian, or our cold gear on. We're not going to do that. It's a basic example, but this is basically what's available to us when we're kind of aligning things with the new moon. So, of course, we know in our own lives that we have to be constantly changing, constantly learning, constantly improving. And this we see with the actual new moon. Because when the moon is new, it's blank, it has no light. But then it starts to go through this cycle where it's receiving light throughout the entire lunar cycle, and it's constantly changing. And that is reflecting to us our human nature. And if we're not changing, if we're not moving, we go into a state of decay. We get kind of like stuck. So the moon is constantly reminding us that we need to change, and that there are these different phases of the moon. And really, it's about this obvious measurement of light that we also have with the solar seasons. Autumn is very different than summer, and spring is also different than winter. And there is light that we have today that will not be the same tomorrow, and that wasn't the same 10 years ago. But it is because it's bouncing off different surfaces, just as an example, okay? So there is light that will build from today on that's going to try to get to you, and that's going to try to get into your life, and that's going to try to get into your reality. And this can create kind of a pressure. This can kind of create a pressure in your life, which is good. If you think about the size of the sun compared to the size of the moon is obviously smaller than the sun, so there's a lot of pressure that the moon has. There's so much light coming in that it has to reflect this light the best way that it can. That's why it goes through that process of waxing. And then it becomes full, and then it begins to wane again. But it is a process, and that's what I really want to talk about today, is that process, that order that can be coming out of this chaos. Because if you think about all the light that's shining on, it could be a little bit chaotic. So there is light, and there are these phases that the moon goes through, and it's reflecting these different lights and these different energies. And the phases and the light that's around you, that's trying to enter into your life, it's waiting for you so that it can move in. And that, of course, that light is not coming from the sun directly. It's a representation of the light of God and the love that God has for his creatures. So we have to think about this. We have to change constantly to make room for this light to enter into our life. And the reason why this is so important is because Leo is ruled by the sun, which everything is centered around the sun. And it was like really so funny. Aurelia said it the best today when we were just kind of like talking back and forth. And I don't know if you guys know that, but maybe you know that with your own spouse, or if you have roommates or friends, and it's like one is working and then the other one, like in this case, I was like all excited about all these other things, and and I was like, come on, you have to look at this, it's Leo season. She's like, yes, exactly, let me have my center. And this just makes sense. I mean, like right to the point. The sun, we all have our own little solar systems, and it's amazing, and it's like everything is revolving around that. But in the same way, we are revolving around something much bigger, and we have to make changes in our life, and until we find the purpose of our life, and of course to complete it. And so this is really something that is how I have used the new moon in my life to constantly build on my projects and everything that I'm working on, and just really pushing forward and having all kinds of optimism. And if we're not signing up for these changes in our lives, then of course we will be signed up and asked and forced to make changes in our life, because that's what we have to do. We have to make changes in our life. So even if it looks horrible, if we're being forced to change something in our life, it will be good. It will be good, because we will grow. We will let go of the old. We're going to make room for that new. Now, there's a hack to this. There's a zodiac hack to this. If we understand that everything that we're going through, all the changes that we're going through, are from God. And I can tell you, in my own life, in my own suffering, like the survival mechanisms, before these survival mechanisms came through, that I had to deal with later, as just like growing up and not understanding why my parents are doing this or my family's doing that. I had this strong connection to God, and I knew that it was for the best. I didn't know what it was. Through all this really horrible things that were going on, I knew that there was a purpose, there was a connection, there was a reason why this was going on, and I knew that it was from God and that it would be good. And if you don't know that, it's very difficult. And I'm not saying that I always knew it, but I knew it, right, as a foundation. So the hack is that I've understood is that if you know that, or if you understand it and accept it, then it's going to ease, it's going to help everything that you are going through. Okay? And this is why it gets a little bit tricky, because spirituality is not about the new age entertainment or the new age entrapment. We know all that. It's about this process of light that I was talking about, because a lot of times people, they just want to be tranquilized. They just want to get like a relief, or they just want to get high, and they don't want to really like get into it. And there's a whole market for that. But when we understand that it's all from God, then it's going to help with everything, and it's going to be beyond the entertainment and the entrapment energy. And I spoke about this in length during the Leo season workshop and the live stream there, about how we have to be careful of just like exposing things, whether it's in the news or the media or wherever it's coming from. There's all kinds of things that we can be kind of get addicted to, that we have to be very mindful of. So let's just talk a little bit of the neurology that's occurring when we're looking at the brain, what's going on with the brain. With the new moon, there's a boost of acetylcholine, okay? And so during the weeks of the new moon, as it's moving into the full state, or the quarter moons and the full moons, we get this boost where we have more creativity. It's a really good time to be like, use that pep to begin new things. Not necessarily now, because we are in this kind of radioactive zone, but we can push things forward that we've been working on. Research has actually shown that the dominant neurotransmitters change with the 4 phases of the lunar cycle, okay, which is really interesting. So we have a lot of forward pushing action here, and I think this is really amazing, because every new moon, while it pushes us forward in a new way. So this is, of course, all about the flow of life, the flow of the archetypes, how the universe is flowing into us, and how we can adapt to that. And it's coming through the sign of Leo. This month, this lunar cycle, it begins in Leo, and we acknowledge that. So we want to, of course, think about our growth as beings, our goals, not what society wants, but what we are destined to do. And we all have a journey that we're going through, that we have to really essentially do in order to receive that energy. If we're not on our journey, we're not going to really receive that energy. And then we have to supplement with other things like judging, arrogance, or, substances, for example. So even every new moon, if you don't even know what you want, every new moon is a good time to say, I want to renew my commitment to my goals and my path and my growth. And this is really amazing. Now, I did mention something about how we are in this intense time, and this is going to really start to shift once we hit the full moon. So now we are in the new moon. In 2 weeks, we're going to have the full moon, which is an amazing full moon for love and soulmates and all this really good stuff. But after this full moon, after these kind of 2 weeks of this new moon energy, we're going to kind of come back online. So you guys know I'm doing the zodiac hacks, the book and everything. It's all about the analogies and the mirrors with the computers. So we're kind of like shut down for system maintenance right now. And then after this full moon, we come back online. Kind of, it's easier to open up the different channels and stuff like this, so that we can really allow things to flow through us. Because like I said earlier, we want to be on our path. so that we can receive the energy that we need to fulfill it. So we have to be a little bit cautious, mindful, extra humble, meditating, because there's a wave of energy that is going to prepare us for, of course, Virgo season, which we know is the time that we want to do the atonement. And I have the atonement exercise that you can check on rxander.com. There's links. You can check out the links in bio and all that stuff. It's free. It's amazing. That's what we want to do, like every day minimum during Virgo season. But we're being prepared for that now, because then once we end Virgo season, you guys, we're already going to hit the autumn equinox. Can you believe it? It's like autumn equinox is like basically a month and a half away. And that is when we get like the full system reboot. So right now we're under system maintenance. And then it's always interesting, because if you look at the world, Apple usually releases their products during that time after they've been doing all the working and the editing and the maintenance and stuff. And then they say, okay, now we bring out, like, we're ready to release it, like either the new operating systems or the new products or whatever. So it's like all these things are just expressions of the energy that's there. And if you, once again, you want to be successful, you just see what the schedule is. If you want to catch a plane, you want to catch a train, you look at the schedule and then you catch it. That's what you do. Okay. You know, if you want to make your own schedules, you can do that too. But you, like, you know, you have your own plane, your own train, all this stuff. But then that's another layer of work that you need to get to in the same way to be able to, quote unquote, afford it. So there's these different layers, these different investments that we have to make to be able to tap into all that. So let's think about this for a second, okay? New moon, good time to want things, okay? Whatever it is. When we want something, what is it that we essentially want, right? What we want is, of course, an aspect. We want an aspect of the universe, of God. We want some of that light, some of that energy in order to feel good. And that's also what this archetype, that's what this new moon energy is filtering through, is all about. And I'm going to talk about that in the meditation, which won't be part of this multi-stream, but it will be part of the registration for those who sign up. There's links everywhere for that. But this is like, we want a light that we can be able to connect to that. So we have things, so we have things in our life, and then of course we want more light in our life, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a really important thing to do, to understand, is that we have to constantly see things as good, especially in these times that we are living through, because it's so easy to get down and negative. People all the time, they're being misled, they don't understand. And the biggest con is being conned into thinking that it's just all going to hell or whatever. That's just not the case. So we have to see things as good, even if we don't feel good, because remember what I said earlier, this is about being able to overcome that and being able to be successful and happy. Now, this is also, at the same time, we need to cool it down a little bit. So we want to see things as good, but we don't want to get too riled up. We don't want to get too excited. We want to be able to stay humble and balanced. Now, today something really big is going on as well, aside from the new moon. After the new moon, shortly after, so we could say tomorrow or today, like this whole energy, and we're going to feel this now for a while, is that the planet Jupiter, which is the biggest planet, is going retrograde. So what does that mean? Okay, that sounds like, who cares? Well, Jupiter we have to talk about frequency and resonance. Jupiter resonates with the heart energy, like something called the heart vortex at the center of the chest. And when it's going retrograde, we need to think about things that we have missed, things that we have not really thought about before, or things that we've just kind of skipped over. And the theme of this Jupiter retrograde that will begin with this new moon, so it's going to give it like an extra charge, is going to be many things, but one that I want to bring up is kind of like a superiority complex. Okay, so that is anytime that you believe that your abilities are like dramatically, okay, Leo, dramatically better than someone else. Okay, so it's about feeling better than others. Basically, it's about feeling better than others. So we could also just call that being pompous, right? And this is, we know that a superiority complex is the result of being dishonest, because it's a compensation. It's getting energy from something else, because when you're honest, that doesn't happen. But when you're dishonest, that does happen. So it's a lot of ego, of course, and Leo makes it a little bit more dramatic, but Leo also has so much love. And because Leo has so much love, this is new moon in Leo, it also means that Leo has a lot of hate. It's the two extremes. It's the two extremes. Um, and this is the general energy that we experienced in Cancer and also now with Leo. So if you have the capacity for love, you have the capacity for hate, and this is human, okay? But we don't want to go into that. So we want to be humble, but we also have to be careful there, because think about it. You have probably heard many times of servants who throughout history have manipulated the king or the queen or the bosses, or employees who manipulate the bosses. They bring them information that they wouldn't otherwise get about the kingdom or the employees, and they end up counseling them, and they're blowing sugar up their, you know what, brown nosing, giving them the praise, and then the leader gets sucked right into it, like, I can't trust anybody, and next thing you know, the secondhand guy or the servant ends up running the show. Okay, and we all have seen this happen, maybe even our own lives, trusting the wrong people, not being able to really trust in ourselves or in the guidance, but needing like this kind of outside validation or this insecurity. So we know that this can happen, and this is an example of these extremes that I'm talking about. But that doesn't mean that we need to go into the other extreme and control everything. It means that we need to have courage, love, faith, trust, courage, gratitude, bravery, courage to go where no man has ever gone before. And that's what we need to constantly be doing over and over and over and over and over again. So if we think about it for a second, in a world of endless possibilities, okay, we have endless possibilities where we are. All kinds of things can happen. And, you know, we want to begin them on this new moon. But this could be good or bad. So we can control now anything that could happen now at this kind of like quantum level of this lunar cycle. Now, you guys probably, if you have any questions, just, you know, put them in the chats. You guys have probably experienced that before, that you get like this lucky streak or you get like this unlucky streak. But have you ever really asked where it's coming from? Now, you could say preparation. You could say maybe you don't believe in that stuff, or I never had that before, or I always have lucky streak, or I always have unlucky streak. Now that, of course, is not entirely in our hands if we're having like a lot of this luck. But then again, we have to think about this, because we want to transcend our fate and we want to activate our destiny. And these are two different things. So we have to make the distinction between the two. When is it God that's controlling everything, right? And when is it something else? When is it my ego? Like, is something happening to me because my ego created this? This is a karma, or is this like a divine intervention that's going on? Well, At the end of the day, of course, it's always divine intervention, but that's underneath, and that's how we can bring the order out of the chaos. If we're going through something that seems chaotic, we have to go deeper, find where is the blueprint here, and bring it up. And that's our task. That's our goal. I mean, that it's simple, but it's difficult. So it's always God underneath, no matter what, because everything comes from God. But what's obvious might be something very chaotic. Or let me put it this way, it could be a path to God and to learning this, for example, because we don't know what the lesson is that we need to learn. If we did know it, we wouldn't be going through it. So we, of course, zodiac hacks, I personally, I know this, it's just like that's how it is. There's free will, and we have to accept that our actions have effects, and there's no mystery to that. But the thing is that we don't need to be pessimistic about any of that. We don't need to be pessimistic. This is why when I'm looking at a birth chart, I don't look at it in a negative way. I look at it in a positive way to see what can be done. And sometimes things that I have to say is like, oh my God, this is like how, like, my goodness. It's like, yeah, we have to make a plan. If you have a mess in the kitchen, you have to clean it up before you can use the kitchen again. I mean, whatever you're going to cook is not going to be that great if you don't clean it up. Even if like the energy, I mean, this is like, there's no way. So we make a plan, the new moon, we make this plan according to the universal laws that are unbound by any group or whatever. And this is really, we want these laws of loving your neighbor as yourself. That's really what it comes down to. Coming together to work. And in the meditation part, you will see how this is connected to the archetype that I want to share with you guys. I will show you from the Cosmic Pixels deck that we've created. But it's about coming together to just have a basic unconditional love no matter what. And rather than living to be accepted, we live to really accept and to practice this unconditional love no matter what. So you guys, this new moon meditation that I've developed, been doing it for years, have been helping people across all industries really boost their businesses and their personal lives, because it really helps you to control the outcomes of your intentions right from the start, because everything that will manifest is contained right at the beginning. And so this is like I said, we can set our intentions at any time of year, but when we do it within the operating hours that they will be processed and, manifested, it's like really a no-brainer. So this has been like, I developed this this protocol, but this whole thing of observing the new moon, like I said, has been going on for thousands of years. And each and every month is different, even though the process is very similar. It's going through a different archetype. And I think a really important thing that I want to say, just closing up about the Leo, is like the new moon in Leo, because it's a moon conjunct sun in Leo, is when you're talking to people, okay? Because we have this Uranus conjunct North Node going on now. So if you feel like you're going a little bit crazy, a little bit, don't worry, because there's a lot of energy flowing through. So it's clearing up evil speech, okay? It's clearing up this energy of evil speech. People talking bad about each other, people talking lies. It also includes not saying things that you should be saying. Like if an angel wants to speak through you, for example. But the question arises, how, especially with Leo, how do you tell someone something they will be willing to accept? Isn't that the question? Wouldn't that be amazing if you could know how to do that? If you're a teacher, for example, or a parent, or you're on a team, How can you do that? How do you know they will be willing to accept? So the answer is here. One answer is like, it's important to say the right thing to a person. We know that. But the moment also matters. So it's about the timing. Okay? It's about the timing, knowing when to say something, knowing when not to say something, and knowing when to say something. You're not going to drop a bomb on someone in obvious times when you're not going to do that. Like, say you're at a wedding and someone's like just got married, you're not going to drop this bomb on them unless it's like really, God forbid, like an emergency or something. Okay, so it's like about this balance. Everything has structure, even down to the atomic level. We have the electrons and the neutrons and the protons. And when things get imbalanced or unbalanced, we have to connect, we have to reconnect, and we have to come back online, which will happen collectively after this new full moon. But when things get unbalanced, we also need to know that we have connected to something outside of the natural flow of life. And this happens. Like, we connect to things like media, like bad influences, trends, memes, all kinds of stuff. We connect to all these things. So we need to reconnect by going into nature, meditating, doing like a digital detox or some kind of detox to get balance again. I talk about this in the elements classes, about the primordial elements, and I'm thinking about actually like redoing them again if you guys are interested. But it's like, we have to, let me know so that I can put you on a list. But the thing is like, we have to, that negative imbalance that we've created and that has made us forgetful about who we are and what we're supposed to be doing here, we have to recover ourselves. We have to completely recover ourselves. So the sun is giving us that healing energy and that balance that we can download. We can download that healing energy into that new moon and then wax it throughout the lunar cycle. And there is so much energy that's flowing into all of us during this time, is that all we need to do is to allow it to move in. We don't need to do anything extra. Just lay low, allow it to flow in. And because if we try to do more, if we try to control, if we try to do things, we're going to get sunburnt. We're going to burn ourselves. We're going to get damaged. So if we have too much power trying to do things, we're going to get burnt because our ego cannot handle the voltage, but our essential self can. So when we have the ego, and doesn't matter how successful we are, what matters is how are we going to share that light with others. So we're sharing by listening, not listening to evil speech, sharing our time, our views, surrendering our opinions, surrendering our views, which automatically happens when we listen. And that is how we become like the Leo leader with this moon and lead throughout this lunar cycle. And that's totally amazing. And last thing I promise is like followers, people that follow you in your life, in your company, in your work, in your clients, your families, wherever, or people that you follow, is like, the followers are always affected by the leader, always. And things can get out of alignment for everyone. But don't forget, underneath, there is a harmony, and it's hidden, but you can find it and see it as good and thereby make it good and realign and rebalance that flow of life and that magical reality where you're just in the right place at the right time doing the right thing. And it's one of the most exhilarating things you could ever experience, because you just meet places, people, and things that seem like out of this world. Okay, so you guys, thank you so much. Go ahead and sign up for the meditation, and so that you can really download this energy and integrate it into your life. It's been an honor, and I will see you guys next time. Bye.